Welcome to this video all about inequalities. Be sure to check out the PDF booklets which are at mathsupgrade.co.uk for all the questions, clues and the solutions. The first set of questions are all non-calculated questions. Question 1, 2 marks. We're asked to write down the inequality shown by that number line there. So you can see, since there's a solid circle here, then the value of p can be equal to -3. There's a hollow circle here, so it cannot be equal to 1. So this represents equal to, this represents not equal to. So quite simply it would be -3 is less than or equal to p, which is less than 1, for 2 marks. In question 2 we need to solve this equation first of all. So what we're going to do, we're going to use a balancing method and we're going to expand the brackets first. So 4 times x is 4x, 4 times -5 is -20. So 4x minus 20 equals 18. Then since I need to get x by itself, I'm going to get rid of this -20, and the inverse of that is add 20, and I do that to both sides. So that gives me 4x, these two things cancel each other out, and 18 add 20 is 38, so 4x equals 38. Then, since x has been multiplied by 4 here, I'm going to divide by 4 on both sides, since that's the inverse of multiply. So 4x divided by 4 gives me just x, and 38 divided by 4 is 9.5. Part B, I need to write down all the possible values of t. Well, I know this symbol here means less than, and this symbol here means less than or equal to. So what that says is t is in between 3 and 2. It could equal 2. It's a whole number, so all the whole numbers between -3 and 2, including 2, are -2, -1, 0, 1 and 2. It doesn't include -3 as a value, since it doesn't include that symbol there, and that's 4 marks. In question 3 we're given a triangle AOB. We're told that angle AOB is not an obtuse angle, so therefore it must be either equal to or less than 90 degrees. So if I add up these angles here, I can write an inequality which gives me 2x add 3x add 10 is less than or equal to 90. So I just need to solve this to find the value of x. So 5x, since I collect these two terms, add 10 is less than or equal to 90. I need to subtract 10 from this side, so I'm going to subtract 10 from this side. That leaves me 5x is less than or equal to 80. Dividing by 5 on both sides gives me x is less than or equal to 16. So the greatest value of x must be 16, and that's 3 marks. Question 4. We're given a number line and we're asked to show the inequality -2 less than or equal to x less than 3 on that number line. We know that x could be equal to -2, so we're going to put a solid circle at -2. It cannot equal 3, so we can put a hollow circle at 3, and we're drawing a line in between them to show it can be any of these values. We now need to solve 5n plus 3 is greater than 27. So we need to get n by itself, so I'm just going to first of all do the inverse of add 3, which is subtract 3. Do that to both sides, so we'll get 5n is greater than 24. Now the inverse of times by 5 is divide by 5 on both sides. That gives me n is greater than 4.8 for 4 marks. In question 5 I need to solve 14n as being greater than 11n plus 6. There's n's on both sides here. I've got less n's on the right hand side, so I'm going to get rid of these. At the moment 11n is positive since there's no sign in front of it, so it's a positive 11n. The inverse of add 11n is subtract 11n. So I'm going to subtract 11n from both sides. That leaves me 3n, which is greater than 6. If I then do the inverse of multiply by 3, which is divide by 3 on both sides, that leaves me n is greater than 2, and that's. In part B, I need to show the set of values of x for which -2 is less than x plus 3 is less than or equal to 4. So I need to get x by itself, so I'm going to do the inverse of add 3, which is subtract 3, and I'm doing that from all parts of this inequality. So subtract 3 from here, which gives me -5, subtract 3 from this part, which leaves me x, subtract 3 from this part, which leaves me 1. So that leaves me -5, which is here, and 1, which is here. It's not equal to -5, so this is a hollow circle, but it could be equal to 1, so this is a solid circle, and a line between them to show it could be any one of these values, and that's 5 marks. In question 6, we need to show the inequality -2, which is less than or equal to x, which is less than 3. So since x could be equal to -2, this needs to be a solid circle. Since it cannot be equal to 3, this needs to be a hollow circle. So it would look like that, and then with a line between them. In part B, we need to solve the inequality 4y plus 7 is less than 16. So I need to get y by itself, so I'm going to do the inverse of add 7, which is subtract 7, and do that to both sides. That leaves me 4y, which is less than 9. Then divide both sides by 4, which leaves me y is less than 2.25. Whole question was 4 marks. Question 7. On the number line, we need to show the inequality x is less than 4. So since it's not equal to 4, it needs to be a hollow circle, and then the line needs to be extended all the way across till the very end. So it can be any one of these values and beyond. In part B, we're told that y is in between the values 3 and 7, including 7. So since it's a whole number, an integer, we need to write down all the possible values of y. So that's going to be 4, 5, 6, and also 7, since it includes the value of 7 there. In part C, we're asked to solve the inequality 3x plus 5, which is greater than or equal to x plus 17. So with this, we need to look at where we've got more x's. We've got more x's on the left. So I'm going to do the inverse of add x, which is subtract x. This x is positive since there's no sign in front of it. So if I subtract x from both sides, I end up with 2x plus 5, which is greater than or equal to 17. Now, you do the inverse of add 5, which is subtract 5. Do that to both sides, you end up with 2x, which is greater than or equal to 12. Divide both sides by 2, and I get x, which is greater than or equal to 6. And that's 7 marks for the whole question. Question 8. We need to show the inequality of x is greater than -2 on the number line. So it's not equal to -2, it's greater than it. So it's going to be a hollow circle with the line extended all the way to this side. Now we need to work out the greatest integer to the greatest whole number that satisfies the inequality given here. So on this inequality, I've got more y's on the left, so I'm going to do the inverse of this term here. This term is positive since there's no sign in front of it, so I'm going to subtract y on this side, subtract y on this side. That gives me 3y minus 1, which is less than 7. Now I need to do the inverse of subtract 1, which is add 1, and do that to both sides. I end up with 3y, which is less than 8. And now I need to do the inverse of multiply by 3, which is divide by 3. Do that on both sides, and I end up with y, which is less than 2.6 recurring. The greatest whole number it can be is therefore going to be 2, since it's got to be less than 2.6. So the greatest integer is 2, and that's 5 marks. In question 9, we're told that t is an integer such that it's between 7 and 15, not including those values. So the greatest number it can be, since it's a whole number, is 14. In the next part of the question, we're told that f and g are both integers. F add g is 500, and f is 160 greater than g. We need to work out the value of f and the value of g. So in this question here, the important thing to note is that f is 160 greater than g. So f is g plus 160. So f is bigger. It's g, whatever the value of g is, plus 160. Now, using this equation and this equation, I can substitute this equation for f into this equation here. What that then gives me is that f plus g equals 500 becomes g plus 160 plus g equals 500. If I then collect like terms, 2g plus 160 equals 500. And then carrying on over here, if I subtract 160 from both sides, I end up with 2g equals 340. divide both sides by 2, I end up with g equals 170. So g is 170, and since we know that f is 160 greater than it, f must be 330. Now let's just check that these values are correct for these sentences. So f and g are both integers, they're both integers. F plus g is 500, so add them together get 500, that works. F is 160 greater than g, so 160 add this gives 330, so that's correct as well. The whole questionnaire is worth 4 marks. In question 10, I need to factorise first of all. So if you're not sure on how to factorise quadratics, then be sure to check out my video file on that topic. But essentially, I need to look for two numbers that multiply to give 6 and add to give 7. And put them in brackets like so. So the factors are 1 and 6. They add to give 7, so I can put y plus 1 and y plus 6. In part B, here's my inequality. I need to solve this. So to solve the inequality here, I'm going to look at which side has got more x's. I've got more x's on this side, so I need to get rid of these x's here. These x's are positive since there's no sign in front of that term. So I need to do the opposite of positive x, which is negative x. So subtract x from both sides. That gives me 5x plus 4, which is greater than 17. And then I need to do the opposite of add 4, which is subtract 4. So subtracting 4 from both sides, I'll get 5x, which is greater than 13. If I then divide both sides by 5, I'll get x is greater than 2.6. In part C, n is an integer with negative 5 as less than 2n, and that's less than or equal to 6. So first of all, I need to get n by itself. So to get n by itself, I'm going to divide everything by 2. So divide this side by 2, divide the middle by 2, divide that side by 2. That gives me negative 2.5, which is less than n, which is less than or equal to 3. So n must be in between negative 2.5 and 3. And it's a whole number. So the numbers are negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, and also 3, since it could include the value of 3. The whole question was 6 marks. In question 11, I need to solve this inequality for 2 marks. So I've got x's on both sides. I've got more on the right hand side. I've got 1x on the right hand side. I've got negative a half x on the left hand side. So I'm going to do the inverse of negative a half x, which is positive a half x. So I'm going to add a half x to both sides. That leaves me with 3, which is greater than 1.5x, 1.5x. Now, dividing both sides by 1.5, since that's the inverse of multiplying by 1.5. So 3 divided by 1.5 is 2, and 1.5 divided by 1.5 is 1x. So 2 is greater than x. In other words, x must be less than 2. And that's in question 12, I need to solve this inequality. And to show my working out as well. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this divide 4. In the middle part, everything's been divided by 4, so I'm going to multiply by 4 on all parts of this inequality. If I do that, I end up with 88, which is less than m squared plus 7, which is less than 128. Now I'm going to subtract 7 from everything in this inequality. That gives me 81, which is less than m squared, which is less than 121. The inverse of squaring is square rooting, so if square root all sides here, that gives me 9, which is less than m, which is less than 11. Or it could also give me, since when a square root I could have negatives, I could also have the square root of 89 as being negative 9, and the square root of 121, which could be negative 11. I'll put them this way around here, since negative 11 is less than negative 9. So, given that, then I know that the values of n are either going to be between negative 11 and negative 9, or between 9 and 11. So there's 2 sets of values there for that question. The whole questionnaire was worth 5 marks. So that concludes this video. If you encountered any difficulties in this video, be sure to check out my other video files, especially involving factorising and also solving quadratics. Thanks for watching.